All right, welcome. Today we're going to unpack one of literature's most powerful and, most compact forms, the short story. Seriously, get ready to see how a whole universe of meaning can be squeezed into just a few pages. So let's just jump right in with a big question. We're all so used to these epic novels, these long-running TV series, right? But can a really short, focused story actually pack the same kind of punch? Can it really leave a mark on you? Well, that's what we're here to find out. But first things first, before we can really get into its power, we gotta be on the same page. What are we actually talking about here? What are the rules of the game? What makes a story short, anyway? Okay, so here's the textbook definition, but let's break it down. The words that really matter here are compact, focused, and intensity. See, it's not just about being brief. It's about a very deliberate, almost surgical design to create one single powerful impact. In a truly great short story, every single word, every comma, has to fight for its right to be there. I love this analogy. It's the perfect way to think about it. A short story, it's like a perfectly composed photograph. It freezes one single decisive moment, right? It gives you this flash of insight. But a novel? Well, a novel is the whole movie. It's a sprawling exploration of characters and entire worlds. Both are amazing art forms for sure, but their goals? Totally different. And that brings us to the guy who literally wrote the rule book on this, Edgar Allan Poe. He called this guiding principle the unity of effect, and what he meant was that everything, the plot, the characters, the setting, even the rhythm of the sentences, it all has to work together to create one single intense feeling or idea in you, the reader. There is absolutely zero fluff. Nothing is wasted. So where did this thing even come from? It didn't just pop into existence, right? It's got this incredible history, evolving all the way from these ancient moral fables to the super complex psychological deep dives we get today. Yeah, the roots go way, way back. We're talking oral traditions like Aesop's fables, these quick, punchy tales meant to teach you a lesson. But things really kicked into gear in the 19th century. You've got magazines and periodicals exploding in popularity, and they needed content, stuff people could read in one sitting, and boom, the modern short story is born. Then you get to the 20th century, and the modernists just flip the script entirely. They turn the camera inward, straight into the character's mind. Okay, so how do they actually do it? How do writers achieve that powerful, unified effect we keep talking about? It's not magic. Well, kind of. It all comes down to a specific set of tools they have in their toolbox. Let's break down some of the major flavors of short stories. You've got your realistic stories, which are all about holding a mirror up to everyday life. Then you've got psychological stories that, just plunge you right into a character's head, using cool tricks like interior monologue. Each one has its own focus and its own key techniques, whether it's the biting irony in a satirical story or the heavy symbolism in an allegorical one. But here's the thing, no matter what kind of story it is, realist or whatever, they all rely on these same fundamental building blocks. It all comes back to that idea of economy, making every single word pull its weight. The plot is laser-focused on one big moment, a climax or a revelation, and the language has to be just incredibly precise, using imagery to pack in tons of meaning. All right, now let's see what happens when you put these tools in the hands of the absolute masters. We're talking about the writers who didn't just follow the rules, a lot of them actually invented them. And we absolutely have to start with the man himself, the guy who gave us that unity of effect idea, Edgar Allan Poe. He's really seen as the pioneer who gave the short story its intellectual framework, and of course, its first real taste of psychological terror. Poe's genius was just his absolute total commitment to that unity of effect. Every single story, think The Telltale Heart, is meticulously crafted to create one single overwhelming feeling, usually terror or guilt or just this creeping dread. He locks you inside the minds of these completely unreliable narrators and just refuses to let you out until that final chilling line. Okay, so from the dark, twisted corridors of the human mind, let's step out into the brightly lit, but maybe just as cruel, drawing rooms of 19th century France with Guy de Maupassant. Maupassant was an absolute titan of realism, and dramatic irony, he was the master. His stories, like the super famous one, The Necklace, are often about regular people whose lives get completely wrecked by their own ambitions. And yeah, he's famous for those twist endings, but they're not just for shock value. Nope, they're designed to slap you in the face with some harsh truth about society or human nature.
And then there's Anton Chekhov, a Russian writer he completely changed the game. Chekhov showed the world that a story's real power often comes from what isn't said, from what doesn't happen.
So Chekhov basically threw out the dramatic plots and those tidy twist endings. Instead, he focused on mood, on atmosphere, and on the tiny, subtle shifts happening inside his characters. A Chekhov story often doesn't really end in the traditional sense. It just stops, and it leaves you with this feeling or this question that just sticks with you for days. So the innovations from these giants, Poe, Maupassant, Chekhov, they created this incredibly powerful legacy. And it is very, very much alive today. You've got contemporary writers who are still building on that foundation, still pushing the boundaries of what a story can do in just a few pages. I mean, look at this new generation of masters. They're using the short story to explore all the complexities of our modern world. We're talking about writers like Alice Munro, who won the Nobel Prize pretty much just for her short stories, and Jhumpa Lahiri and Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. They've become these absolutely essential voices.
And just look at the stuff they're writing about. They're using that sharp, focused lens of the short story to dig into huge topics: cultural identity, memory, social justice, you name it. And they're often using these cool experimental structures that kind of reflect our own fragmented lives. It just proves that this compact form is maybe the perfect way to explore the most urgent, most personal questions we're all facing. Which kind of brings us to a final thought, doesn't it? In our world, with the constant notifications, the endless scrolling, our shrinking attention spans, maybe a story that can give you a complete, powerful, emotional experience in one sitting is more important than ever. Maybe the short story isn't some dusty old genre. Maybe it's the perfect art form for right now. What do you think?